Jeff,
Now we have,
I guess it works.
so we can have our designer. I know, but
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for coming to the Belmont Library Assembly Room. I need to speak louder. The mic's not working.
Pull the mic closer to you.
Pull the mic closer. How's that? Okay. How's that? That's good? All right. So, first of all, many thanks are in order. Thank you to the library for hosting us. Thank you to Jeff Hansel of the Belmont Media Center, who's taping and broadcasting this meeting, and who from the very beginning has been part of the core team and a big supporter, offering the use of the center's space and technology and moral support and suggestions. Thank you, Jeff. And thanks to all of you for being here tonight. And thanks to the growing list of volunteers who have thrown themselves into the demanding and sometimes dizzying work of launching a newspaper for Belmont. Most of us didn't even know each other until mid-December, when we began to connect up through friends and social media. So I'm just going to acknowledge the core team: Sue Bass, Deborah Demain, Pierre Villette, Paul Santos, Ann Stewart, Jeff Hansel, Jane Rosenzweig, Judith Feinlieb, Linda Pinkow, Roby White, Sarah Caputo. There's our poster team: Ann Paulson, Kathy Lind, Caressa Kuntz and Suzanne Robotham, and Lynn Hamer, Susanna Carmesian, Asia Calixto, Paul Griffin, Maria Triesman, and Maria Olagunju. To my right and in front of me is the board: Lucia, Arno Bernson, who is our clerk, Vicky Fici, who is our treasurer, Ann Donahue over here, Bob Rifkin, and Hal Shubin, who is unable to be here tonight.
That's where you want to be.
Please note that when I say the word newspaper tonight, I mean digital as well as print formats. It's an old word, but it's still being used. This is true for the Belmont Voice, and it's true all over the country. The news is an industry that's being reinvented, which means that the vocabulary is evolving too. So here's what we're going to do. I will tell you what we have in mind, what we've done so far, and why we want a newspaper for Belmont. Anne will fill you in on the newspaper itself, including our editorial policy, and Bob will give you some perspective on how we propose to pay for it. And then we will open the floor to your questions. What more can we tell you? It's going to be your newspaper, community-run, and community-supported. What do you want to find in it each week? What sounds good? What are your concerns? So let me start at the beginning. I have lived in Belmont for 43 years, and until recently, the Belmont Citizen Herald arrived every Thursday, full of Belmont news, letters to the editor, and op-ed pieces, and I read most of them and disagreed with some. Like many of you, we no longer subscribe. Who wants a ghost newspaper, as they say? What is happening in Belmont is happening across the United States. Between 2005 and 2020, more than 1/4 of the country's newspapers disappeared, and half the journalism jobs went away. So did half of the newspaper subscribers. It's still happening. An average of more than 2 newspapers a week are disappearing. What does this mean for us and for the country? Research shows that with fewer sources of local news, voters are becoming more polarized. With fewer reporters, political competition and voter turnout suffer. The Brookline News reports that buttressing local news is seen as a key strategy to fight the erosion of democracy. I have seen more energy and excitement around this project than around anything else I've been involved with my whole life. It has a festival quality to it, although it's very hard work. When I say to a stranger at Star Market, "Do you know Belmont is getting a newspaper again?" their enthusiasm sustains me for a week. "What can I do?" they say. "How can I help?" "Belmont is changing so fast," said someone else. "The country is changing so fast. All these worlds are colliding in a way they never did before." Last week, I spoke with town moderator Mike Widmer. When the Citizen Herald was a real newspaper, he used to meet for coffee with reporter Joanna Tsouvelis and talk about the warrant articles up for vote at town meeting. The next Thursday, when the Citizen Herald arrived in your mailbox, you could read Mike's comments on those articles, his explanations for some of them, and later you could learn how the votes had gone. Not anymore. You know the issues Belmont faces, not only the financial ones. Many of them are increasingly complex. They're not easily understood. Never mind those overrides. Consider the upcoming MBTA housing initiative. People will disagree, but as Mike said, they need a common understanding of what this complicated initiative and all the others are about. The Belmont voice will be essential for residents and for their representatives, that is, town meeting members, to become educated and focused on the essentials. This is not a matter of taking sides. It's a matter of informing the community, clarifying, and offering a place for debate and contrasting opinion. So what can you expect from the Belmont voice? I'd say first, the more you join with us and tell us what you want, the more you'll get it. What we want is a newspaper designed for everyone, community-supported, and community-run. In short, we are looking at a nonprofit, local, independent, unbiased news outlet with volunteers who support a paid professional editorial staff. We're aiming for a digital site to cover the news, especially breaking news, and a weekly print paper mailed to every household and business in town. As Anne will tell you, we'll cover everything a local paper should cover. Providing the news is a public service. People used to make money off this public service, but that model is failing, hence the nonprofit model. Papers all over New England are sharing what they have learned. The Concord Bridge, the Marblehead Current, the New Bedford Light, the Newton Beacon, the Brookline News. We call them up, and they share everything with us. Their bylaws, their budgets, their editorial policies, their fundraising strategies, their staffing, their mission statements. The people in Winchester are starting a paper, and now they are calling us for advice. We are now members of the Institute for Nonprofit News that supports local papers across the country. Between 2016 and 2023, some 96% of their members continue in operation. So where does the Belmont Voice stand after 5 months of work? We've incorporated in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, complete with bylaws, a governing board, and an editorial advisory board. Our operations will be funded by advertising, corporate sponsorships, grants, and donations. We are looking at ways to receive your donations and welcome your pledges. We filed to be a charity and can provide you with details about this. We've received nearly 800 responses to a survey that we've been sending out for several months now. So we have a growing sense of what people want in Belmont. 91% want to know what events are going on. They want a calendar. 80 to 90% want to know about town board and committee meetings. 68% want letters to the editor. 59% want to read the police blotter. We have a business plan and a projected budget for the first 3 years. Our website is in place, and we use newsletters and social media to connect with Belmont until we begin regular reporting. And we are ready for Town Day. Not a small matter, I can tell you. And in less than half a year, we have received more than $85,000 in pledges and gifts. The first of these was an unsolicited $50,000 pledge from the Belmont-based Santos Foundation, for which we continue to be deeply grateful. What do we still have to do? A lot. We need more people on the board with expertise in fundraising and corporate governance and journalism. We want a board that reflects the many sides of Belmont and its many points of view. We need people to host house parties and coffees, to manage events, to coordinate volunteers. Please talk to someone on the team here, or sign up on one of the lists circulating tonight, or contact us through belmontvoice.org. Finally, were you born here? Are you worried about how your town is changing and the cost of living in Belmont? Are you part of a young family who has just moved to Belmont, wondering how you fit in and concerned about the quality of the schools? Are you deeply worried about Belmont's fiscal cliff? And what is a fiscal cliff anyway? Please join us. Tell us what you want to see. It's your newspaper. And now I'll pass the mic to Bob Rifkin for his comments.
So thanks to everyone for coming out. It's great to see some interest from the community in what we're trying to do here, and I think it's an exciting project. We're really happy to be. I'm really happy to be involved with it. That's for sure. Everyone on the team that, like Jane said, we just met a couple months ago. How's that? Okay. Okay. Yeah, we just met a couple months ago, mostly over Zoom. So I've seen these people a handful of times in real life, which is really nice. And I've enjoyed getting to know all the people on the team, and we all sort of bring a different strength to it. Also, we have some fundraising, we have some marketing, we have editorial, and we have writing. So we have a lot of interesting strengths. Hal, who's not here, brings us technological skill, and I come here with an investment background, with a business background, and that's kind of what I'm trying to help out with. So just a bit on my background before I get into the numbers of how we're going to make this paper work. I've been in Belmont since 1995. My wife, Jane Levin, who's in the audience, supporting, and we bought our first home here back in '95 and put our 3 daughters through the schools here. We've experienced Belmont from Evergreen Day School in the late +90s to Wellington, the old one, Chenery, and the high school, again, the old one. I recently retired from a 30-plus year career in investment management. I analyze businesses and manage portfolios of equities for mutual funds and other institutional accounts. I actually sat across the table from the senior management of Gannett about 4 years ago. Gannett, for those of you who don't know, owns the Citizen Herald. At that point, they were defending themselves from a hostile takeover. They ended up merging with Gatehouse, who is Gannett now and owns our newspaper. But one thing that's been pretty obvious for the last 5 to 10 years is that the news business, the for-profit news business for sure, is a tough business. For years, newspapers made consistent money off of classified ads and real estate listings. And that changed with Craigslist and more recently digital sites like Facebook Marketplace. And the move to online has been challenging. Circulations declined as online grew in importance. Ad revenues decreased with circulation, and newspapers downsized, cutting journalists to protect the bottom line. And our very own Citizen Herald, owned by Gannett, features regional content now. I've been visiting the website recently just for kicks to see what they're offering Belmont subscribers for $110 a year. So there's an article on 5 new restaurants to try in eastern Massachusetts. One's in Foxborough, one's in Marlborough, none are in Belmont. There's an article on Taylor Swift's upcoming concert at Gillette. Okay, that's important, I guess. There's a headline about the Danvers High School girls tennis team, and a photo story about Sudbury's newest police dog, Rico. Okay, this is not bad content. It's just not relevant to us, and it shouldn't be in our community newspaper. We really deserve better, and I think our time has arrived now. I said that the for-profit news model is difficult, and so where I think we have the advantage is in our plan to operate as a not-for-profit. Being a not-for-profit allows us several advantages. First, we don't have to meet investor-driven short-term growth goals. We can invest in this product for the long term. Because we're hyper-local and community-focused, we can capitalize on community input, both for content and for funding. Also, as a nonprofit, we're part of that larger community that Jane told you about. Our neighbors who've started this process, Concord, Marblehead, and others. And as Jane described, they're happy to help. It's a lot different from starting a competitive for-profit newspaper where you really would have to do a lot of digging to find the answers to certain things you're looking for. So here, it's been a really, they're our allies, they're not our competitors. And finally, because we're not for profit, we'll be able to mail our newspaper into all 10,000 homes in Belmont at an attractive not-for-profit mailing rate. And that's a big deal. We talked to printers in the U.S. Postal Service here in Belmont. We've learned that we can deliver a high-quality newspaper with engaging editorial product focused on Belmont. We can deliver this to every home and do it profitably. And that's what our community's been missing and wants, and that's what an advertiser wants. They now will have the ability to be seen by their target audience in print on a weekly basis. So we expect our overall financial picture to be as follows. We believe we need to spend about $500,000 annually. And that includes a professional full-time editor supported by 1 or 2 part-time journalists and key business management staff, things like ad sales, production management, fundraising, tech support, all that to run the publishing operation. Together, salaries and benefits for these professionals should encompass about 55 to 60% of our costs. Print and distribution should be another 30% or so. And other overhead and support functions will be the remaining 10 to 15%. And so how do we pay for this? As I alluded to earlier, we expect to generate healthy ad revenues. We see that Concord and Marblehead have done so. Lucia, the Concord Bridge over there, or Deb, just thank you. I mean, this is the Concord Bridge. It's an 11 by 17, and it's got a full-page real estate ad on the back. And it's got usually 1 or 2 others in here, so 2 to 3 full-page real estate ads and other ads. So they're giving you 16 pages of paper. It's about 5 to 6 pages of ads, and the rest is content. They don't go above 40% for ads. That's their philosophy. So we're projecting that with ad revenues plus some additional revenues from other paid content like obituaries and legal notices, we can provide about 60% of our budget. And that's that $500,000 I talked about. So that would be about $300,000. And this will more than comfortably cover our print and mailing cost, which I said earlier is about 30%, we project to be about 150. So that's a really good margin. That's going to help us pay for the editorial staff and other needs. So beyond that, we hope and will need to receive consistent contributions from members like you. This is like an NPR when people support their radio station. We're in a small community, and we really are going to need members like you right here in this room and around the town. Our belief is this product's going to become an indispensable one for people, a product which all in town will support. If we get just 20% of households in Belmont to donate, say $100 per year, we can bring in $200,000. And that would be another 40% of our budget. And that 100, I mentioned earlier, it's 110 for the Citizen Herald. So it's $10 less. And there's more content for Belmont. So further to that, we plan to engage with foundations for potential grants. And importantly, we're commencing an outreach to major donors. As we start to go down this road, we would really love to see a show of support from those in the community that can most afford to help. Our goal is to raise $500,000, approximately 1 year's expenses, by the end of 2023. We've already raised, what is it, Jane? Did you give a number we raised so far? More than $85,000 already, before our official work has even started. So, and these donations are going to provide initial funds to get the project off the ground, as well as some cushion in the event of unforeseen revenue shortfalls or cost overruns. We realize that potential donors and supporters may want more information on the sustainability of this venture. We want it to be ongoing and successful financially. And so we're happy to share our preliminary budget and business plan with anyone who wants more information on it. And I'm really, ongoing, looking for help from people and good questions and input on that, because we're all just learning too. So finally, please indulge me for a minute. You guys don't know, this is risky. This is a little risky. These guys don't know me too well. I'm going to go off on a tangent. Here we go. I've always loved newspapers, the printed paper, more recently online. I subscribed to the Globe, New York Times, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal. I wrote for my high school paper, town paper, and college daily. I remember when my hometown paper, the Milburn Item in Milburn, New Jersey, arrived each Thursday. I turned to the sports pages. They covered my Little League baseball and rec basketball games. So here it is, thanks to newspapers.com. The January 8th, 1976 edition of the Item, page 14. I mean, you can kind of see a little bit of what it looks like. I printed. So anyway, the headline is, Results of ABA NBA Loop Contest last week. Is a typo in the Item. It should have said hoop. Results of ABA NBA Hoop Contest last week. And it's an informational wrap-up on different games. I guess I was in the NBA. It says, in addition to the recaps, it says, in other NBA action, the Knicks walloped the Warriors 40-25. Bruce Rothbard and Tom Ferry had 12 and 11 points respectively to lead the way for the Knicks. Bob Rifkin had 8 points in a losing cause. Losing cause. It was the coach. It was the coach's fault, no doubt. We lost. That's okay. Anyway, what a thrill to see your name in the paper as an 11-year-old. I really do believe we can recreate that kind of thrill and that connection for parents and kids all around Belmont. Whether it's youth sports, school theater, musical performances, academic achievements, whatever. We have a unique opportunity here, let's seize it. Let's get the kids off the phones and reading newspapers again. Anyway, there's so much we can talk about here. And we're learning more every day. I'm really looking forward to hearing your questions and comments. And I'm going to hand it off to Ann, and she's going to tell you about all the great stuff we're going to put in this newspaper. No pressure, Ann.
And it's free.
Can I get your autograph?
It's only 8 points, but...
All right. I don't have a formal script. I'm going to hopefully make this more interactive. Whoop. Hello, Mike. Yes, I am an audio producer. Did you know that? And I need to get close to the mic. So I just retired after 25 years of teaching journalism at Boston University, and before that was a journalist locally in Channel 7 and then at ABC News, and did international coverage in my last few years. And it's a profession that I love, and I am teaching to students and sending them out into the woods of who knows what. And I'm thrilled that many of my former students are working at these small startup newspapers, and they're loving it. So it gives me hope that the profession will survive and that honest journalism will continue. I remember when I first moved to Belmont, the newspaper was my roadmap as to what was going on in town. From, again, the Little League games that my kids were going to be playing in, to the schools, to the budget, whatever. What was this road construction about? That just doesn't exist for the most part now, and I think it's up to us to fill in those gaps, and that's why I want to do this. I also want people that have been here for a long time to learn something new every week, or every day if we can do it online. I'm hoping we will have a lot of stringers and community people involved with doing profiles about other citizens in Belmont. We have the Nobel Prize winner in physics lives in our community, and we also have people that coach second soccer, and I want to hear about all of them and why they do what they do. And we want to hear from you. I mean, this is your paper, and we want to do what you want to do. If there's anybody here that wants to write a food column or restaurant reviews or book reviews, we would love to publish that. If you're an artist and want to share what the arts community is up to, I'm looking at an artist over there in the corner that might share her expertise with us about what her and the other artists in town are doing. Whatever your passion is, I'm sure somebody else in the town shares that passion, and I hope that you'll share that with the newspaper, and we can all learn from each other. We will have letters to the editor, we will have opinion columns, and we will hear all points of view. And I want to stress that. This newspaper does not belong to any one person or any one political party or any one group of activists. We want to hear from everybody. And we want to be fair and honest and work with facts. We're not going to just run opinions. We will have an opinion page, but that's it. The rest of it will be fact-based, hard, sought-after facts and good journalism. And when we fall down, and we will make mistakes, and even if it's spelling your name wrong, we want to hear from you. But we will make big mistakes, and we want to hear from you, and we will correct those mistakes and apologize for those mistakes when we make them. But we are imperfect humans, and we're going to be a startup with probably young talent, so there will be mistakes, and I want to just be clear that we'll own up to them when they happen. We have an advisory board. Belmont is blessed with a lot of really wonderful journalists. I think at least one of them is here, Cosmo Macero, former Herald reporter. We have Dick Lair, who's formerly of the Globe Spotlight team, is on our advisory group. Stephanie Lydon, who's at WGBH. Jane Clayson, who is at WBUR. There's a whole slew of folks that are around. There are two Belmont High School alums who are in their early 30s that are both working for Politico, have done very well for themselves, and they've agreed to be on our advisory board because we felt we need a little bit of a younger set to help advise this group. So we've got those two young journalists helping us out as well. We are looking for writers, we're looking for editors, we're looking for photographers, we're looking for graphic designers. Whatever your talents are, we would love to, I say employ you, but we would love for you to volunteer, and maybe we can pay you a small stipend. But that's all we can hope. So I think that Jane mentioned this statistic earlier, and I want to underscore that. We have joined the Institute for Nonprofit News, and they have funded and supported hundreds, if not thousands, of news organizations over the last 20 years. Their record from 2016 till today is that 96% of the newspapers that they have supported and invested in are still alive and well. So we are very confident that your work, your volunteerism, your donations, your advertisements will find an audience and will be sustained for a good long time. And that's the pledge I hope we can make and keep. And I think the most important thing, I read weird things like the Columbia Journalism Review and Neiman Reports and all that stuff. And there was an essay the other day about journalism, and they described it. It binds society. It binds society by providing the connective tissue of a common fact base that we can be discussed and debated by exposing people to a wider range of experiences and perspectives. And I hope in this kind of uncivil world we've been living in lately that we can have a civil conversation and a civil dialogue about our community and what we want to do with our tax dollars and what we want to do in our schools and with our land and with our roads, and everybody will have a different take on it and a different opinion, and we want to hear all of those, but hopefully we can come to some consensus in this give and take world that we're living in. So that's it for me for that, but I do want to now solicit your ideas for what you want to see in a paper. What's missing in your news diet? What would you love to see that you're not currently seeing? Yep.
I have to say that had it not been for
We need to have,
Need a mic.
nobody's going to be able to hear you, so please hang on for a minute.
I can repeat the question.
Yeah, just, I didn't know this was going to happen right away.
Can you stick with those lists of what they want to see?
That's why I'm here.
Can I look too?
There you go, you can use
Okay.
this. You just leave that one there because they're going to
Okay.
want to use
Answers. This is the Q and this is the A.
it. When it's tested and,
All right, so Kathy
okay, the
Sinnott.
big question.
I just wanted to say that this year, had it not been for the League of Women Voters, who send out a pamphlet every time we have a local election, had it not been for that pamphlet, I would not have known who was running for any of the offices that were up for competition, or the town meeting members from my own precinct. And beyond that, I just know absolutely nothing lately about what is going on administrationally, legally, any which way in the town. And it's a void that can only lead to apathy, mismanagement, whatever. And so I think that type of information about town meeting, about the weekly select board meetings, about the warrant committee meetings, all of that needs to be publicized so that we have some sense of where we're headed as a community.
I just wanted to respond to that. There was a town in California, Bell, California, where there was no newspaper and there was nobody minding the store, and the selectmen raised their salaries to about $750,000. And people's property tax went up, and they didn't ask why for a long time. And it went on for 7 years before they got caught and are in trouble. So.
Wow. Okay, well, I don't think we've reached that nadir yet, but who knows where we're headed.
Any other comments, Mike?
Please use the microphone, everyone, if you're.
And can you identify yourself? If that's
Yes, I'm Ottavio,
There we go.
and I've been here a long time. And I remember when we had two weekly newspapers, the Herald and the Citizen. It's very depressing to hear now that we have nothing. It was a long time ago. Recently, for the past 20 years or so, there's a new device in Belmont. It's called Belmont Citizens Forum, which at one time was just in print. And now they have a respectable website. Have you guys been talking to them, see what they're doing right?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes. They're wonderful. They're a big source of very reliable information.
Yes, I'm sure that you can get some notes from them, yes.
Hi, thanks, Ann. Is this working? Can people hear me? So my name is Michael Collins, and this is Beverly Freeman, my lovely wife, sitting next to me. And And Bev and I were involved in forming an organization about 31 years ago called Belmont Against Racism. That was in response to the Rodney King incident in Los Angeles. And in any case, over the years, lots of things have occurred that BAR has been involved with, one of which was an art show by African-American artists from the greater Boston area that took place in this very room that was well covered by the Belmont Citizen Herald, which also covered over the years the annual celebration of Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday and had front page coverage of that every single year. And I think more importantly, instances where BAR sort of basically raised issues about things going on in the town that were either acts of commission or omission by public officials, sometimes by private individuals, that resulted in disparate or racial, racist kind of impacts on citizens in the town. And I'm still involved with BAR, and I can tell you from the folks that I'm involved with that some of that stuff is still going on. And there's no place for people to sort of hear about that, to learn about that, to respond to it. And so we don't have a mirror to hold up to ourselves any longer to say, this is who we are, is this who we want to be, or do we want to be better than this? And if we don't have a newspaper that sort of reflects that type of a perspective, that is sort of doing more than sort of being the Belmont version of USA Today, then we've lost something really important in the community. So I applaud your efforts, and I hope that we can make it happen. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey there, my name, it's nice to be here. My name's Cosmo Macero. So yeah, I was in the news business for a long time. In fact, I fell in love with the news in this building as a kid. Up at that period, I don't know if it's still there, the periodical rack that's in every library. Just sifting through and learning about how the news was covered all over the world. And at my kitchen table at 134 Concord Ave at the time, reading the Belmont Herald and the Belmont Citizen. It was a two-newspaper town, believe it or not. And that became a love for the news, and then I went on to start reading the Boston Globe and the Boston Herald. I think the most important thing a community newspaper can do is to think about all the people in the community and all the fascinating stories. I think Belmont's particularly rich with fascinating people and talented people of all types and interesting families and people doing wonderful things. And I'm looking forward to the work that's done by the Belmont Voice and bringing those stories to life, in addition to all of the very important civic role. And I think it's a big part of local journalism, the civic role that a local newspaper plays. I learned that actually as a community journalist in Western Massachusetts. All the lessons I learned in high school and college really blossomed covering local community news and understanding the things the decisions that you make in a small town are essentially fundamentally the same things that the city of New York, the city of Boston, the city of Los Angeles are confronting, just on a different scale. And I think that that's really important. So I'm very excited and happy to be part of this.
Thank you, Cosmo.
Hi, good evening. I'm Jean Mooney. Thank you very much for all the work that you've put into this. Thank you. One of the things that I miss is a place, where we can submit press releases, for events in town. I'm a big social media follower, and a couple of, Facebook groups that I do, and I seek out information. But oftentimes I'll tell a neighbor, people who choose not to be on social media, and where can they go to find out where events are happening if they're not, if there isn't a banner up on the railroad tracks, or if you haven't run into someone to find out. So I think that's having that list of events, and also a place where organizations can submit their own news. Whether or not it might be what your church or temple is doing that week, or your own, Belmont Against Racism is doing. So it's an important place where the community organizations can share their voice and report, and I think that's really important to furthering community activity. I think it would be terrific to have regular columnists. And also, people used to ask me, how did you know about that public hearing or event that was happening? I said, there are these things called legal notices, and I used to say, go and read those legal notices if you want to know what's going on. And so if we can get the town to be, running those notices in our papers, I think that goes a long way to informing people about some of the big events that happen in town because they have to be, published.
Hi, I'm Kathy Lind, and I moved into Belmont 52 years ago, and raised my kids here, was a teacher for many, many years in the Belmont Public School, and I did read the Belmont Herald and the Belmont Citizen when they merged too, and I knew what was going on in the town. I was a town meeting member for 37 years, and I felt like I knew what was happening. I'm no longer a town meeting member. I no longer have kids in the school. I have 5 grandchildren in the schools. I don't know what's going on, and I mean, somebody asked me tonight about Town Day on Saturday, and if I didn't see that poster, I wouldn't know. But I don't know about the school events, when the plays are, when the musicals are, and I think we need to celebrate that, and I need to have the grandchildren I have who are involved in sports to see their names in print or their team in print. The prom is on Friday night. That used to be a really big deal in the paper. You kind of know what these limousines or these after prom parties are, but we don't know about those things if we don't have kids in the school anymore. So that's what I'm looking for, is events.
I'm Lucia Gates. Kathy said some of the things I wanted to say, but I'm going to add something. I would like to hear the voice of children, from the little ones to the high schoolers. I think when they get a chance to hear their voice, see their name, someone said, see their name in print, just like there you were, remembering something that happened when you were 11 years old. So I'm asking to hear the voice of children in the paper.
Just to answer to that question, we've been talking to the Belmont High School newspaper as well, and there's a kid that's graduating, but he's going to work for us this summer to do some evergreen content, and he wants to be on the board going forward. So we'll have a student journalist on the advisory board. But I would like to see kids' drawings. I would like to see the kindergarten and nursery school kids' drawings. There's great content coming out of these schools, so I'd like to see it.
Yes, I'm Ann Paulson, and I, along with a number of other people, spent a little time delivering the flyers to the various shops in town. And I was really interested to hear from the small owners about how much they missed having the ability to do a little advertising, and that they hoped very much. They were I was surprised, frankly, and they were very interested in hearing about the proposed newspaper, and each of them in turn would ask, so I suppose there'll be an opportunity to advertise, and we said, of course. The more the better.
Well, I had the same experience. I think what Ann did, they all said, you're looking for that.
That's great. She already said it. Any other thoughts about content? Anybody here want to do a food column or a wellness column or an arts column or something like that? We're open to all kinds of ideas, and there's lots of talent in this town. So if you know folks that might be writers or might be writer wannabes.
We have an air purifier behind us, so there's
sorry.
a lot of white noise. So
Sign up sheet.
Yeah, I just want to, if there is any talent, the hidden talent or wannabes in this that want to write a column about your favorite topic, if I'm learning how to weave. It would be a really boring column about putting the shuttle. But there could be somebody that could do a crafts column and show pictures of what they're working on or something like that. So we want participation from as many citizens of Belmont as we can get. And I think it'll be a much more fun paper to know what your neighbors are up to. And I should also say, when I retired in December, and the first 2 weeks of January were depressing. I had nothing on my calendar. And Jean Mooney called me And I'm not sure I'm going to thank her yet, but she said, you got to get involved in this Belmont paper. So I want to thank Jean Mooney publicly for doing that. And I also want to apologize to Bob Rifkin, my former next-door neighbor, who I said, come on, Bob, you got to come with us. So it's been a really good opportunity for, I think, all of us to get to know each other and to get to know more people in the community. So we're eager to have your input. Jackie.
Yeah, I'm interested in writing about the senior experience, the aging column.
There are seats, there are 4 or 5 seats up here if you can't hear.
I'm also interested in hearing about how everyone from old, middle-aged children, what they're doing to help their community, to serve in their community. And I think that will inspire all of us to look out for our community. So I'd like to see articles about that, events about that.
Name? Oh, good. Would you share your name?
Claudia Bell.
Thanks. Okay.
Glad we had this dialogue.
This is a question rather than a suggestion. The Belmontonian, Franklin Tucker, tried for years to do something like this, and he's, obviously not been able to put as much time or effort into it, and it's just dwindled and dwindled. But have you connected with him about this?
Yes, and he was here for most of the meeting in the back of the room. Yeah, he left. Yes, I thanks to Jeff Hansel from the Belmont Media Center. He has been the, matchmaker. He brought us together, at least over Zoom, and I had a nice conversation with Franklin. And I think he's happy doing what he's doing, and I applaud him for doing what he's doing. I just think it's one person and only can do so many things. And so I think I would like to merge our efforts and support him and share resources, and I hope that could happen. But that's his call if he wants to do that. But I think he's it really right now, and that's a tough ask to one person to cover the whole town. So.
Sorry to stand up twice. I know this past, I was thinking of the students in the high school and the aspiring writers. And this past weekend, there was a group of about 20 high school students who worked on an environmental garden of pollinators. And they had all the ideas, and they worked really hard, and they had their picture taken. And wouldn't that have been an awesome thing for them to write an article that we could empower them, kids to know that we're listening to them, not just complaining or worrying. There are a lot of exciting things happening in all of the schools, whether it's the elementary, middle, or high school.
If there are other comments, how about, I've hogged the time for input about what we want in the paper, but are there other questions about other issues in terms of the financials or the marketing or whatever? Yeah.
Hi, I'm David Webster. I agree with what everyone's saying. This is very exciting, and thank you all, Jane, my neighbor, and everybody else. That's terrific. The events are very important to me. The letters to the editor are important to me. You can read letters to the editor of the Globe, but when you read them in Belmont, you know a couple of the people that are writing them each time. And I'd echo something about the sports. When I was a Little League coach, I took the opportunity of writing articles about my team, and I made sure to get as many names as I could possibly in those articles. And it is something to think about too, that make sure people realize that they can write an article if they're in a particular slot, a teacher or proponent or involved with something, because that doesn't dawn on you. I was surprised they put it in word for word, whatever I wrote, so that was fun.
Just a couple of questions. When are you looking to launch this, and can we get Bob Rifkin to write a comedy skit each week?
Well, there's a little difference of opinion on the launch date. Rifkin's up for grabs. You can do whatever you want with it.
I planted that guy.
I think
Ringer.
I think the launch date depends on the financial picture, and our mission for the next month or two is to raise $500,000. And when we're close to that, I think we'll feel some comfort in starting to publish. We have a website now. I have a group of high school kids and maybe a couple of BU students that might be writing stories over the summer that will be posted online. So there'll be maybe things coming out drib-drab, over the summer online. But the big printing of the paper, I think, is probably, we're talking early fall, October 1st, potentially. Any other, the board may have a different opinion on that, so.
I would just say that 5 months is a very short time to undertake a project like this. Our hope is, as Anne said, to be aiming to start publishing sometime in the fall. But it's not only raising money, it's a million things to do. So volunteers are welcome. Contact us, let us know about your talents and how you think you might be able to help. But that's the hope now, sometime in the fall to begin publication, which will be less than a year since we started. What?
Can you pass me?
Yes, here, Bob.
So just one other, we learn about new logistical challenges and issues every day.
Yeah.
So we do, if anyone knows anybody at the IRS, please let me know, because we are waiting. We filed our application. Vicki worked, tirelessly on filing our 501c3 application, so that's in there. But we're not tax exempt yet, so we can't do those great mailings at the 9.5 cent not-profit rate until we're tax-free and we have a nice letter from the IRS. So that we have to wait for that, and hopefully
in the state.
By the fall. Yeah.
In the state, we're waiting on the state as well.
Yeah, and waiting on the state to be an official charity. Yeah, okay.
But we can accept pledges.
And are we
Yeah.
using a local printer?
We've gotten quotes from several printers. I don't know if we've settled on one. But
We've gotten quotes from several printers. Most of the printers are local in the Gannett sense of being local. They're not here. But they're regional, and they're printers that work for the other papers. We've looked into that. The printers for the Concord paper, the printer for the Marblehead paper, and the printer for the Provincetown paper we've talked with.
Right, printing a newspaper is different than printing a newsletter or a brochure. It's a complicated process. And one thing the printer does is deliver as well. Am I right about that? And distribute.
They will, yeah, it's a whole process where they will do the print job and drop it off at the post office in bundles, and then that's the way we can get in the postal carriers, mail carriers' hands. And it's not a job that someone like Belmont Printing, I don't think, can do without farming it out to another printer.
Bob, get the microphone over.
Okay.
Is there a question up here?
Well, not everyone in Belmont is English speaking. Is there any opportunity for a column that addresses that?
Yeah, we did some demographic research and got from the schools, somebody on the school department, roughly a third of kids entering kindergarten this year, English is not the primary language spoken in their home. And I don't want to misquote the numbers, but a significant number of households have multiple languages spoken in the home. I think Chinese would be probably the number one, and we've talked about, with the wonderful Google Translate, you can get so far, and you could do that, but then you're going to need a Chinese native speaker to do the editing. So if we could find somebody that was willing to do that, and I think we probably could, it could be a high school kid that could just read it for clarity, that would be really great. So, yeah, yep. Sure.
Okay. Figured I would. Hi, I'm Jeff Hansel with the Belmont Media Center. I did want to say that we got involved early on because we thought that having a local paper again would help. We can promote the work through media and highlight those stories in breaking news segments and short news segments that we do for Belmont Journal and News Now. There's some people in the audience that are involved with that. We thought we could complement each other, and I hope that that's really our path. I do want to say that our mission really got thrown in a different direction over COVID, because now we're really working with improving the electronic communications needs of the town, the school, and educational opportunities both. We're building a studio at the Chenery and at the high school, and we hope those efforts can also contribute and be part of the newspaper. But I do want to say there's a lot of meetings online, as you all know, and get covered, a tremendous amount of meetings, and I hope that that helps the newspaper, Belmont Voice, to be able to report things a little more efficiently and more cost effectively, and that's really what I hope we can contribute to this, so that the information is there. It just takes reporters to synthesize that and report about that, and that's what's missing here. But I would give the town credit, all the town officials credit. Whenever something can be televised, they say televise it, put it on the air. We want people to see it, but you can't watch a 3-hour select board meeting. Well, you can, but.
Yeah, I would just add to that, when Jeff and I first spoke last summer about the need for a newspaper in Belmont, one of the ideas very quickly was that, for example, a newspaper reporter could attend a town meeting, could gain a good understanding through preparation of what was going on, and then present a video report on what had happened with clips from speakers at the town meeting. That's something you can't do with paper, but that's something the Belmont Voice can do with all the digital tools that are now available, which include what the Media Center can make available. Other questions?
Yep. Oh, sorry. I had the mic.
Yeah.
Oh, Carolyn, I'm so sorry. Oh, my God.
I wield the power. No, I have a stupid question. I felt that someone or several of you referred to things online. Do you have a website that I don't know about?
Yeah, the
You can't hear.
BelmontVoice.org, right?
Oh.
Exists.
I was asking for the website.
Currently exists, yes.
Great.
And
Belmont
Belmont
Voice.
Voice. Is it the BelmontVoice.org?
No, it's
BelmontVoice.org. No,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.
So my name's Susie Feinberg, Belmont resident. I came late, so I apologize if you already talked about this, but I'm just curious about your decision to a print newspaper, which is a huge cost, and so why you decided to do that instead of just online.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So that was my first reaction too. I was like, I was incredulous that, I joined the group sometime in February, and I just didn't think that was possible. We've looked at what they've done in Concord and other newspapers, and it really is the great opportunity to make a margin in local news, because the print and distribution cost is much lower than I thought, and the opportunity for ad revenue is higher than I thought. And it's really quite amazing. I mean, if you with the nonprofit rate and the print quotes that we've gotten, it costs less for us to print and distribute a newspaper to 11,000 homes than it does to mail a postcard. So that is, to me, the light bulb moment. So that's why we're doing it.
Also, as I said, the Concord Bridge has been very helpful to us in sharing their experience. So I raised that question with them. How are people reacting to the idea of paper and print and so forth? And she said the reaction is very favorable. The stories are, it comes in my mailbox, there it is again, I take it in the kitchen and read it while I drink my coffee. So their audience of Concord residents is very positive so far about the print version.
And having just moved, newspapers are really helpful when you're packing up dishes. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Training a new puppy,
Yeah.
there are lots of uses for a newspaper.
Yeah.
Amy.
Hi, Amy Kirsch. And question, as far as the online link, are we also going to be able to read the paper online and share articles out, or is it just going to be print?
Yeah, I think that's the idea.
Both.
You'll be able to do that.
Great. And then as far as news corners, I love like the volunteer corner idea and like kind of highlighting ways to volunteer in town, I think would be a really great way to get the news out and how to get people involved.
Yeah, thanks. That is a great idea.
Did you want to speak, Octavio?
Maybe I should.
Yeah, I think you had your hand up.
Okay, first of all the microphones like this, not like this. Okay? My name is Ottavio again, and I had a long career in engineering, both at MIT and Raytheon. And after retirement, I was teaching in the schools, public schools. And I had run around with one of the students at the middle school. Well, the previous principal there, she fired me on the spot. And I complained to the, at that time was recently new Mr. Phelan, right? John Phelan. Okay, and I told him the whole story, and he would not hire me back. So I was essentially fired. I was the number one student. I was the number one substitute in the school system. I was the number one, both by the students and by the teachers and by the parents that knew me. I'm very popular in Belmont, but the superintendent would not hire me back. It's been a big loss for the town of Belmont. I think if we had a non-profit newspaper, I would have exposed that, okay, to the townspeople, and that would have not happened. I would still be teaching, substitute, all the courses, many courses. The teachers loved me, and I loved the job. But the superintendent did not want to hear that. I don't know, maybe he had a legal reason, I don't know why. He never told me the story. Okay?
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thanks. Yeah.
All right, Laura, any last thoughts? We have a sign-up sheet going around. It's sort of over, there's one on that side and one on this side. If anyone wants to just stay in touch or volunteer or contribute.
Sign up for our newsletter.
Yeah, the sign-up sheet will get you on a newsletter, so you'll be, you'll get the communications about how our plans are evolving. Yeah.
And you could tell your family and friends will be at Town Day.
That's your homework.
All day, 9
The
to
professor
3.
has homework. Go home and tell your family, friends, neighbors, anybody in Belmont that wants to help. We want to hear from them.
Thank
Thank
so
you all
much
for coming.